Week 6 didnt have multiple compelling games on paper, but as usual, it's the so-called down weeks that produce the most chaotic results. And chaos did reign supreme on Saturday. Oklahoma, the preseason Big 12 favorite, lost at home to Iowa State, which was already down its starting quarterback and a 31-point underdog. That puts a major dent in the conference's college football playoff hopes since the Sooners had the big non-conference win against Ohio State. However, TCU picked up some of the slack by remaining unbeaten with a win over West Virginia. Elsewhere, Michigan State showed once again it's not little brother to Michigan by beating the Wolverines 14-10 in monsoon-like conditions. And LSU got a major bounce-back win over Florida Gators. There was so much more that happened around the world of college football. What were the highlights from Saturday of Week 6? What were the moments some programs want to forget? We hash out the best and worst below with this week's version of winners and losers. Winner Texas. The State. It was a good Saturday for Power 5 schools in the Lone Star State. Texas got a big win in overtime against Kansas State, moving the Longhorns to 32. With Sam Ehlinger at quarterback, more on him later, the Longhorns' offense just moves better and is more explosive. This is the team that can win 9 or 10 games. And while Texas A&M lost to Alabama 2,719, it displayed a number of positives that weren't there a month ago. Kellen Mond has quietly developed into a nice playmaker at quarterback. Coach Kevin Sumlin and offensive coordinator Noel Mazzoni have done a good job growing him as a passer. Compare that to Week 1 when he couldn't move the sticks against UCLA. And while that was an all-time collapse, the fallout of which can't be ignored, it's a 1%er type of result. Between that and playing Alabama tough, A&M is 42 and still on track to win 8 or 9 games. That would be enough to save Sumlin's job. Winner Miami, Florida. Oh, this was about to be painful for the Hurricanes. I mean, stick with you for the rest of your life. Painful. After exchanging leads with Florida State Seminoles, Miami held a 17-13 lead late in the fourth quarter. But James Blackman and Auden Tate, Florida State's best defensive combination, took a 20-13 lead with just under a minute and a half remaining. But the Hurricanes marched back 75 yards and scored the go-ahead touchdown with just 6 seconds remaining for the 2,420 win. It was the first win against Florida State for Miami since 2009. This could have been an all-time misery loss for Miami. Instead, it was one of the most thrilling wins from Saturday. Loser reasonable 3-hour games. Western Michigan and Buffalo Bulls totaled an eye-popping 139 points in a 7,168 game that lasted not 1, not 2, but 7 overtimes, with the Broncos getting the win. It was not only the highest-scoring game in FBS history, it was tied for the longest FBS game ever played. Winner Texas. Longhorns quarterback Sam Ehlinger after leading Texas to a 4,034 overtime win over Kansas State Wildcats. There can't be any question. This has to be Ehlinger's job now. The true freshman has been brilliant in his 3 starts and had a career-high 380 passing yards and 2 touchdowns on Saturday. Ehlinger's ability to push the ball down the field, evade pressure and make plays with his feet is a combination that's simply too good for Coach Tom Herman to pass up. Shane Buechele has done a lot of good things, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy, and the offense is simply more explosive with Ehlinger in the game. Loser first down nightmares for Michigan Wolverines. When it comes to rival quarterbacks getting key first downs, Michigan is a resounding 0 for 2 under Coach Jim Harbaugh. There was J.T. Barrett's first down run against the Wolverines last November, and now there's Brian Lewerke Tuckadrell first down in Saturday's 14-10 win by Michigan State Spartans. The first down play that allowed the Spartans to drain clock in a rain-soaked fourth quarter came on a 3rd and 3 with 213 remaining. Lewerke fumbled the snap, which bounced fortuitously back up to him, and darted toward the first down. Michigan appeared to have Lewerke stopped short, but replay showed that Lewerke rolled over his lineman to gain an extra necessary few yards. That's some luck. Winner LSU Tigers. Hey, when you get beat by Troy Trojans and piled on for the rest of the week, the best way to calm the waters is to get a win. LSU got that road win 17-16 at Florida. It wasn't pretty games involving LSU and/or Florida rarely are these days, but the Tigers got back to the style of play that they're accustomed to. LSU outrushed Florida 216,194 and averaged a decent 4.5 yards per attempt, though Florida had them beat at 5.1 yards per rush. There's still a lot to be concerned about regarding this team. Winning cures many things, but even this doesn't cure all. But for 1 week, at least, LSU got back on track. Loser Arkansas Razorbacks. It's come unraveled quickly for the Razorbacks and coach Brett Bielema. With a 4,822 loss to South Carolina Gamecocks, the Hogs are 23 and remain winless in SEC play. With games against Alabama Crimson Tide, Auburn Tigers, LSU and Mississippi State Bulldogs still on the schedule, bowl eligibility is a major concern. As for Bielema's job security, remember that he has a hefty buyout that is currently set at $15.4 million. No contract is unbreakable, but would Arkansas or a certain someone in an NFL front office with deep Arkansas ties be willing to foot that bill? Bad, fiscally irresponsible business deals are the problem among SEC programs, not bad coaches. Winner Iowa State Cyclones LBQB Joel Lanning, the quarterback turned linebacker turned multi-tool, was the MVP in Iowa State's thrilling upset over Oklahoma Sooners. Lanning played 78 total snaps, including 57 on defense, 13 on offense and 8 on special teams. He finished with 25 yards passing, 35 yards rushing, 8 tackles, a sack and a fumble recovery. If Lanning doesn't win the Horning Award for Most Versatile Player, there should be riots in the streets. Loser Oklahoma's defense. The Sooners aren't disqualified from the playoff race just because they lost to Iowa State. However, there's a major issue that needs addressing: the defense. Oklahoma gave up 368 yards passing to Kyle Kempt and Lanning, both of whom are backup quarterbacks. They were beat up front on blocks against the run and on the perimeter. Trevor Ryan's 57-yard touchdown on the quick out wouldn't have been possible without Allen Lazard dominating on the outside. Check it out below. That's a concern for the Sooners moving forward. Winner TCU Horned Frogs quarterback Kenny Hill had 3 touchdowns in a 3,124 win against West Virginia Mountaineers, 1 rushing, 1 passing and 1 receiving on a double pass. In all, Hill totaled 264 yards of offense. That TCU needed to use Hill in all of those different ways shows how creative it needed to be to win. West Virginia outgained TCU, and had it not been for some turnovers and close officiating calls, might have won the game. Hill's multi-use day helped TCU survive. Loser Colorado Buffaloes. The poor Buffs were tasked with trying to tackle Arizona Wildcats quarterback Khalil Tate, and didnt do a good job of it. Tate, who came off the bench, ended up setting a single-game FBS record for rushing yards by a quarterback, 327 on just, wait for it, 14 carries. His 142 yards passing on 11 of 12 passes, no less, gave him 469 yards of total offense and 5 touchdowns. That's great for Tate and all, but how would you feel being the team that gave up that type of yardage to a backup? Winner Tulane Green Wave coach Willie Fritz. He has a history of taking big steps forward during year 2 of rebuilding projects. It looks like Tulane is next to take that step following a whopping 6,228 win over Tulsa Golden Hurricane that included 488 yards rushing. This was a 487 game at the half. Fritz has won everywhere he's gone, and at this rate, he's earning himself another job, perhaps in the Power 5. Tulane may not win the AAC, although at this point, who knows, but they're going to be a thorn for a lot of opponents. This is a fun team. Loser Georgia Bulldogs quarterback Jacob Eason, a sophomore, season-opening starter, potentially finds himself in a tough position through no fault of his own. Jake Fromm was solid once again in a 4,514 win over Vanderbilt Commodores, going 7 of 11 passing for 102 yards and a pair of scores. From WASNT needed much with his arm, but he was excellent at ending plays and moving the chains. That leaves Eason as the backup. Add in the verbal commitment of Justin Fields, the number 1 overall prospect for the 2018 class, and Georgia's quarterback depth chart just got full. Where does that leave Eason? Winner-loser Ohio State Buckeyes defensive back Denzel Ward laid a brutal but by all angles, legal hit on Maryland Terrapins receiver Tyven Jacobs in Ohio State's win over the Terps. However, Ward was hit with a targeting penalty and ejected. Another look shows Ward led with the shoulder and hit Jacobs in the chest. That part stinks for Ward, but it begs the question of which was better, the hit or Gus Johnson reaction on the call. Loser Northwestern Wildcats opening offensive possession. Anytime you orchestrate a 12-play, 34-yard drive that ends with an armpit interception on a 3rd and goal from the 28-yard line, it deserves to be morbidly celebrated. That drive could not be more on brand for noon kickoff Big Ten football if it tried. Not surprisingly, Penn State Nittany Lions won 317, though Northwestern did a nice job containing running back Saquon Barkley. Winner NC State Wolfpack. The Wolfpack's 3,925 win over Louisville Cardinals was a statement, and that statement was this team is ready to make a run at the ACC Atlantic Division against Clemson Tigers. NC State's defensive line was its usual self with 4 sacks, 6 tackles for loss and 5 quarterback hurries. Bradley Chubb has an argument as college football's top edge rusher. NC State gets Clemson at home in about a month. Depending on the long-term severity of Clemson quarterback Kelly Bryant's rolled ankle, NC State might catch them at an opportune time. Loser Ole Miss, and bitter irony, the Rebels' defense gave up an ungodly 561 yards and 44 points in a loss to Auburn. That's bad, but it's even worse considering the school just opted to change its mascot from the Black Bear to the Land Sharks. The new selection, of course, pays homage to whenever an Ole Miss player makes a big play, but it was known for defensive highlights. Yeesh. Winners. Memphis Tigers quarterback Riley Ferguson and wide receiver Anthony Miller looks like someone turned on NCAA football and put it on rookie level. Ferguson went 34 of 48 passing for 431 yards and 7 touchdowns in a 7,031 win over UConn. Ferguson's 7 scores tied a school and AAC single-game record previously set by Paxton Lynch in 2015. Miller brought in 15 catches for 224 yards and 4 touchdowns, and his best highlight of the night, a sticky one-handed grab, didnt go for a score. For context, Miller had 292 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns entering Friday. Loser Florida International Golden Panthers. What's so bad about FIU's 3,717 loss to Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders? That's worth pointing out, you might ask. You see, the Golden Panthers gave up 3 touchdowns on the ground to Middle Tennessee rusher Tavares Thomas out of a Wildcat goal line package. The thing is, Thomas is a linebacker with just 1 rushing attempt before Saturday. That's not great. Winner. Bowling Green Falcons linebacker Brandon Harris was Johnny on the spot with a 99-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown against Miami. The Redhawks were on the verge of scoring on a 7-play, 70-yard drive, but the fumble was recovered by Harris. Quick hits. Lamar Jackson's season is quickly becoming an paradox. Individually, he's doing so many more impressive things as a passer that make him the most difficult quarterback to defend in college football. However, since Louisville already has 2 losses in the first half of the season, his hopes at a repeat Heisman are all but done. There's still time for a rebound, but with the season's Saquon Barkley, Baker Mayfield, et al. Are having, it's going to be a tough climb back into the race. How about this for luck? Virginia Cavaliers has fumbled the ball 10 times this season, and recovered all 10. Iowa State had just 5 wins against Oklahoma entering Saturday's game and hadn't beat the Sooners since 1990, with its 3,410 loss to Temple Owls. East Carolina Pirates drops to 414 under coach Scotty Montgomery. All but one loss. 2015 to South Carolina in 2016 has been by double digits. Maryland notched 66 yards of offense in its 6,214 loss to Ohio State. That's the fewest yards allowed by Ohio State's defense against a Big Ten opponent since 1960. Fun fact: FBS opponents who have lost to Troy, New Mexico State Aggies, Akron Zips and LSU this season are 30 the following week. Chris Vanini. Sam Ehlinger became the 3rd Texas quarterback in program history to record 300 passing yards and 100 rushing yards in the same game. One of the others, Jared Hurd, Texas current wide receiver. Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh is 14 against the Wolverines' 2 biggest rivals, Michigan State and Ohio State, after starting the season 6 in turnover margin in the first 3 games. Michigan State is 7 in its last 2 games and was 5 against the Wolverines, according to ESPN Stats and Info. Khalil Tate and Colorado running back Philip Lindsay set the FBS record for most combined rushing yards by opposing players, 608.